Hey, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to be talking about the second episode of What If. So yeah, let's jump right into it. The first thing that I want to talk about for this episode is the fact that this is the last episode, I believe, that has T'Challa being voiced by Chadwick Boseman, who unfortunately he passed away last year. So I must say that I'm very glad that he at least has one last run in the MCU in this final episode. And beyond that, I am glad that the episode itself is also dedicated to him. Yeah, it's just a nice way for the fans of this actor, of this character, to get one last run with him being played by the character that started out playing T'Challa. Yeah, it's bittersweet, I feel like, knowing that this actor is no longer with us, but it's also nice to see that he has one last performance for his fans, right? And that to me is the most positive aspect of this. Moreover, the episode itself is absolutely phenomenal. The cosmic nature of this episode was honestly so amazing because the episode itself felt very grand, especially in comparison, I think, to the previous episode. The previous episode gave us a few tastes into what we might be expecting moving forward, but the fact that this episode was in space, where we got to see different facets of the universe once again, it just felt like it was on a completely different scale. And yeah, to me, that just worked very well in this show's favor, in the episode's favor, and specifically with the premise of the show. I mean, having it be as grand as possible, I think is definitely a plus for what this show is trying to go for. And as a specific, the idea that we are revisiting places like the Temple of the Power Stone, I believe that is what that place was called. Things like the Dead Celestial's head was where the Collector was originally based, I think, when we first saw him in the Guardians of the Galaxy film. Although I don't know if that's the same spot that we see him at the end of Thor: The Dark World. So regardless, this was one of his spaces where he was dealing with other people, and we get to see it again here, which was very, very fun. That being said, the settings of this episode that we get to visit would be nothing without the characters themselves, and boy, do we have a lot of characters coming back to reprise their roles, to return in this new universe. And to me, this is what really added the amazingness for the episode. We get to see characters like Taserface, Howard the Duck, Kraglin, Korath, the Collector, we got Karina, and we got Drax. Like, these are just a few of the characters that I would say are more tertiary, or like further away from the general plot line, that actually add a lot to the episode. Obviously, the Collector does play a big role towards the end because he ends up being the main villain that our characters fight against, but a good majority of the episode for all these characters, they just have smaller pieces and they just do a good job of building the larger world. Even with the Collector himself, they talk about his deviation from what we originally see him doing in the timeline. He fits the power vacuum that Thanos leaves behind, and as a result, he becomes much more powerful. So he himself, before he even enters on screen, adds a lot more to the episode because it generates a larger world and reasoning as to what's happened and what's different from what we have seen previously. That being said, we also do have Thanos the Gardener and Gamora, who I guess is like a spy or a thief, a master thief, kind of like how Peter Quill was in the past. So it's very interesting to me how some things are different, some things are similar. I mean, Thanos is basically where he seemingly would have been at the end of Infinity War, where he just starts gardening and has his planet, because they do refer to him, I think, as a gardener. And he's, I guess, a part of the Ravagers as well. I wasn't too sure if he's officially a member or if he's just friends with T'Challa, because he ended up showing him a different way from what he had originally thought, which was, you know, genocide. But yeah, I thought that was very, very cool to add that. And on top of that, these two characters, it didn't really erase their past. They still are at odds with each other. Thanos himself is willing to try and put the pieces back together, but Gamora is not really in a place where she wants to do that because she still remembers all the torture and torment that she went through at the hands of her father. Speaking of another parental / child relationship with T'Challa in particular, we do have Yondu, who pretty much has the same role or a similar role that he had in Peter Quill's life in the original timeline. This time, obviously, T'Challa is Starlord, so Yondu had taken him off of Earth and decided to show him the universe when T'Challa had left his home to try and explore the world. I thought this was a fun twist on the original timeline, and it kind of made sense with T'Challa's character in this timeline wanting to explore the world and understand what the world was like, and now getting the opportunity to really impact the larger universe. That being said, let's go more specifically into Star-Lord's actual reputation among the larger universe, and largely it's very, very good. I mean, he is considered almost to be like a savior type figure where he goes around trying to protect and save planets, which is likely how he had run-ins with Thanos in the past and how he ended up being able to convince him to change his hunt for the Infinity Stones. I mean, this guy changed the Ravagers themselves. I think they were originally like criminals or like pirates, basically space pirates, right? Going around and finding things, stealing from people, stuff like that. But instead now T'Challa has rebranded them to basically only steal from the rich and give back to the poor, in reference, in homage to the character of Robin Hood, who apparently T'Challa was a huge fan of. I guess he must have read a few novels back in his childhood. As a result, the Ravagers to me are kind of like a proto or beta version of the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're pretty much doing what the Guardians of the Galaxy should be doing, except a lot better. They're not like screwing up as much. They're not really a team of misfits so much as a bit more organized with a clear leader in terms of Yondu being the leader of the Ravagers, but Star-Lord really guiding them in terms of what they should and shouldn't be doing and how they should be impacting and protecting the universe. Star-Lord's mission, his escapades, like his past, it's all known across the larger universe, and he's actually quite famous and has a very positive reputation among the people of the universe. He's well known for helping people, and I just think that that's very cool, especially when you juxtapose that to the idea of Peter Quill's Star-Lord basically being a screw-up, relatively unknown when we first see him when he is in the Temple of the Power Stone. So yeah, it's very, very cool to see just how different it could be by using a different character taking up a specific mantle. And yeah, I really, really liked it because it turned the band of misfits into a clear force for good within the universe. Next, we are going to talk about the Collector's Collection. Obviously, we got to talk about this. I mean, it seems like this version of the Collector is much more badass and different from his main MCU timeline counterpart. And that is mainly because of the power vacuum that Thanos left once he joined, or basically turned away from his quest for the Infinity Stones. I am curious to know if he actually ended up getting the Aether at some point, and if so, does that mean that it's somewhere in his collection and he ended up just not being able to use it or not wanting to use it at that particular battle? Or did the power vacuum happen much earlier on, even before Thor the Dark World, to the point where he wasn't being trustworthy at that moment and Thor was not able to give him the Aether at that point? That being said, it could be possible that, you know, the first Avengers film didn't even take place just yet, and the timeline slightly shifted about, and as a result, those events just haven't transpired, and so obviously the Aether won't end up being in the Collector's hands since he seems to have passed away. Also, I did want to note, with the return of Howard the Duck, just awesome. I mean, I'm very, very happy that they're doing this. Howard the Duck is such a fun character to be bringing about multiple times. He was a nice Easter egg early on in the MCU in the Collector's Collection, and now we get to see a little bit more of him just acting out and talking to Chadwick throughout the episode, or not throughout the episode, but while he's running around through the different vaults trying to find, I forget what it was, I don't know, it's like a MacGuffin type item that's going to help the universe and protect a bunch of planets, basically regrow dead planets and save the universe, right? So I thought that was very, very cool, and having this character just be reintroduced and being reused, it was just a fun little Easter egg, fun little thing to have added to this episode. Before we move on from the Collector, by the way, I did want to mention one last thing. It does seem like he had a Thor's hammer from what I remember in that episode, and also he clearly had Captain America's shield. So either in this timeline, he stole the shield from Captain America after he was removed from the ice, or he killed him at some point. So I find that very, very fascinating, and I want to know how that transpired, but also, how did he get Thor's hammer? I mean, you have to be worthy to pick it up, so the Collector's probably not worthy, right? But that doesn't mean that he couldn't have gotten it into his collection, because he has had previously a separate version of the hammer, because there are different types in his vault. So it could just be that he got it in some way, shape, or form, had it transported, and was capable of, you know, just keeping it in his vault. I am very curious, though, to see if this was just an altered version. Does it actually have the enchantment of worthiness on it? Who knows? But I'm very curious on that front as well. I want to know how he ended up with Thor's hammer. Finally, I did want to end off talking about the reunion that we see at the end of this episode in terms of a family reunion back in Wakanda with Chadwick, with T'Challa returning home along with the Ravagers and just having a nice little party at the end. It just seemed like a wholesome ending for the character and a nice way to end off the final episode with Chadwick in this universe. I just really liked that. I thought it was a very positive and nice way to end off his journey for the episode. And yeah, that's all I really have to say on that. But wait, there is one last thing to discuss, and that is Ego visiting Peter Quill. It only took another 20 years or something like that, but he finally went out to go find his son in person, and we see Ego on planet Earth, seemingly here to absorb his son's abilities. So I'm very, very curious to see where this goes, because it could be that this becomes the next villain in this universe on the level of Thanos. I think that that's very, very cool to see that potentially move forward, but unfortunately, I don't know if we're going to see any more of this character, of this universe. I really hope that we do, but again, I'm not too sure about that. I don't know if it's been confirmed or not, whether or not we're going to see these characters once more. That being said, what are your thoughts on this episode? Are you excited to see more potentially with the Peter Quill and Ego dynamic in this new universe? Do you think we're going to see more from any of these characters? Or do you think the next episode is just going to be another version of reality? I'm not watching any of the trailers or anything for these episodes, so I personally don't know, but I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed my thoughts, please let me know and like the video to show your support. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.